We're live. It's happening. All right, so this is kind of for the recording because probably everyone who's hopping on won't see this, but this is an episode of the Blue Crocus Experience. And we're flipping the script today. Cam Roberts is a fellow Canadian. He reached out to me about a week or so ago, and he was like, man, we need to know more about Lewis, and we need to know kind of what makes you tick, kind of your background, etc. So is there a chance I could hop on and interview you? And so I was like, yeah, I would absolutely love that because, you know, I'm often interviewing people. I'm always interviewing people and don't try not to, you know, make it all about me. Right. So this is a chance for me to make it all about me, I guess. But yeah, Cam's prepared some.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, Cam's prepared some questions and hopefully the burning questions that you guys have. If you have questions as well, since we're doing this live, you can ask them in the comments and we'll probably get to them near the end or you know, as we're going through, but we'll touch on the comments and we'll just see how it goes. So Cam, that's the intro just because I'm the official host of the podcast, I guess, but now I'm handing the baton to you.
Yeah, not today. You're getting kicked out today.
Yes. All right.
Well, thanks. No, I'm super excited. This is great. So I've been following you since, pretty much the very beginning. And I think the world would benefit if we knew more about Louis Vandervalk. I think that's all it comes down to. So yeah, I'm psyched to be here. And so, yeah, we are live, right?
We are live. Yeah. I think there's 6 viewers on from what I can see. So
that's terrifying.
We're on my profile and our Facebook group and on YouTube as well. So
sweet. So this is going to go on the podcast. So that means this might be, I don't know if this is actually true, but this might be the first podcast that ever gets recorded that may get interrupted by somebody having a baby. That
is very true. Yeah, we're 6 days overdue for our second kid. So we're sneaking this in here before you know that all happens.
6 days, that's red alert stage. They're like at any moment. Do you have like a go bag packed? Like, are you ready to go?
Oh, Alyssa's been packed since like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Go bags are packed. I think if you asked Alyssa, it'd be higher than red alert for her because she's ready to make this happen.
Yeah. What's more serious than DEFCON 1? That's where it's at. Yeah.
Exactly.
But you've been through the process though. This is your second baby. So I remember with our kid, the first go bag is significantly bigger than the second one because by the time you get to the second kid, now you got to figure it out. You're good.
Exactly.
Okay, let's get to the questions because we don't want to lose. I mean, we're happy if you have a kid, but yeah, let's get to the questions. So I'm really excited because, as I said, I think people need to know more about Louis, who you are. We know who you are online, and when we listen to the podcast, we get to know a little bit about you. But I mean, obviously, your podcast episodes are much more focused on your guests, which is great because you've had some amazing guests, but. Let's get into Louis. So I think we know a little bit about where you came from, like before Blue Crocus. So what is your background pre-Blue Crocus Solutions, pre-Blue Crocus experience? What was the deal?
The deal? Do we want to start, you know, when I was born, or where do we want to go with it?
Let's go past born. Let's start somewhere in like, okay, what was your first job? Like, what's your employment history? Were you a worker in school at all?
Yeah, so I grew up on a farm. It was like a farm with a large greenhouse, like 13-acre greenhouse as well. So I worked all through high school and like summer breaks for me were working on the farm or in the greenhouse. So there's always something to do. Always, you know, we had our fun too, but I was always kind of working through as soon as I got into high school.
Yeah, but working on the farm that wasn't like a paid job though. That was like just work.
It was somewhat, some of it was paid. Yeah. And in the greenhouse, because it was, there were definitely some perks. It felt cool to be making money in 8th and 9th grade.
Yeah. No.
Looking back, I might have spent it a little bit differently, but yeah, no, it was good.
Financial decisions at 13 and 14 are never ideal.
Exactly.
So what about, so when you graduated school, like what was your first job outside of the farm? Like what was your first employment job?
Yeah, so I started working right out of high school. Kind of just carried on working in the business, like the family business, I guess, doing a lot of construction work, and that was where I'd been doing some of that in the later years of high school, and then transitioned into doing it more full time. So concrete work. We did a lot of laying concrete, some framing, fencing, and then the whole gamut of whatever whatever lands on the docket between, work in the greenhouse. Sometimes in the production seasons, it would be in there actually running the seeding production lines. So we had like this really cool, like very mechanized system where the seeds get like picked up. The trays come in, they get filled up by soil, go through, and then there's these little vacuum drums with holes on them, and it picks up like individual seeds and then drops them in the trays. And goes through. So there were like 2,000 trays a day going through those lines.
No way.
Yeah.
So like framing, fencing, form like concrete. This is all on the farm. Like must be
on the farm in the business. Yeah, it was like there's like 200 employees in the farm and the business. Yeah.
So this is not old McDonald's little cow farm. This is a big operation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Man alive. So is that pretty much where that's your employment history, is being on the farm? Did you ever go work for like a contractor in doing concrete, or was it just on the farm?
No, so it was all in the business. My dad was licensed in concrete and framing, and so I worked under him doing that. Learning the ropes, learning how to do it properly to his level of detail, and then eventually leading small crews. So that he could go off and do other stuff. But that was up until university. That was what I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm so bad for that. Like when people say they work on a farm, I just picture the smallest little farm. But this is a big operation. You grew up on, big business, lots of employees.
It was, yeah. It was. I mean, the greenhouse was the biggest moneymaker. Still is.
Oh, yeah.
And then the farm was, to provide food for us, and then sold to local shops in the surrounding, like in the province, basically.
Yeah. So how come at this point we have never seen Lewis go live with like the farmer's outfit on, with like the coveralls and stuff? Is that going to happen in the future?
I don't know. We haven't been back to, so it's about an hour away from where I live now,
Okay.
and we haven't really been back since the whole virus thing started. Like my parents will come visit us, but with Everett's nap schedule and everything, sometimes it's a little bit dicey to get all that to work out.
Yeah, no doubt. So you spent a lot of years there, obviously family business, big operation farm. Did you ever do anything like on the side? Did you have any side hustles? You seem like a side hustle kind of guy. I'm not gonna lie.
Why do you say that?
You just strike me as the type. It's a compliment, Lewis.
Yeah, no, I was just curious because I don't think I've talked about them much. I might have on one of the podcasts, but I did actually. My dad and I started, we wanted to learn wood turning. And so
Wood turning,
like making wooden bowls.
Yeah.
So we found a guy in a town nearby. We went and learned from him, and then bought a lathe, ended up building a lathe because Dad wanted to turn like these massive bowls. So he built one out of some local supplies, I guess. So we did that. We tried putting them in local gift shops and stuff because there's a lot of tourism. They say New Brunswick is the drive-through province because everybody's trying to get to PEI in Nova Scotia. So we tried to put them in the gift shops near the border so that there'd still be some tourists. So we did those on commission. I don't think we ever made a ton of money, but we tried to recoup some of the cost of the tooling. So that was kind of my first entrepreneurial side hustle, I guess. It was just a way to kind of pay for our hobby. And then I think the story I like to tell is, I don't know if you've seen the RFID protectors for like Visa cards and bank cards. You can get these little things. Yeah. Well, I probably still have some kicking around, as you'll hear here. I read somewhere about it. I think it was probably an advertisement, like a Google ad or something. I was like, man, that would be awesome. And so I think I bought like 1,000 of them for like, I don't know, like 10 cents each or something. And then I sold them to family and friends for $3.50 a piece.
Oh, money.
So like I went around our church and like family and friends. I was like, guys, you got to have this. Like you're basically sitting ducks. Everyone's out there with a scanner looking to peel off your number. So if you don't have this, like you're just giving away money when you go out shopping.
Yeah, I remember when those became a thing. Good for you. You saw the future, man.
Yeah. So I did that. I think I probably still have a few around. I got rid of most of them, I think. I don't really know what I did with the money. I think I just spent it on skiing and stuff. So it was just like, it just felt cool to be making a profit at that point.
Oh yeah, and a good one, 10 cents a piece, selling for $3.50. You feel like you're doing something wrong. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So did you, like a lot of people, I'm just taking a guess here. A lot of people who work in family businesses. Oh, actually, that would be a bad guess. I would say probably some of them stay there for, quite a long time, maybe their whole careers.
Yep.
But I would imagine a lot of them, eventually do leave the family business. They start their own endeavors. So was that always on your radar to leave the business, or was it just you were going to take it as it goes? Like, what was your plan?
I think I always kind of knew that I wanted to at least explore other options.
Yeah.
I didn't really know, I think it was always assumed I would kind of just carry on in the business. And I think for me, I think I had always assumed that too. And then in high school, started to, interact with friends and stuff and see, there might be some other options out there. But I didn't really know what those were. So I ended up continuing to work in the family business for 4 years after high school. Just because I really didn't know what option I would take if it wasn't continuing in the family business.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So was there ever I know for me, so I was an employee for many years, right? My early 20s, and I didn't dislike it. Like, it was fine, but I also knew that at some point I was bound and, I was quite likely to do my own thing. And for me, it got to this tipping point where I was like, I think it's time for me to go for it and do it. So did you have that tipping point where you were like, I think it's time for me to try something else?
Yeah, I think there was definitely a tipping point. And I think you may be thinking I jumped into Blue Crocus right after, but university was kind of the next move for me.
Okay.
So it got to the point where no one in my family had gone to university. So that wasn't really like a path that was, the normal assumed path. And so it just got to a point where I was like, I think I need to try this. My cousin had gone to university, really enjoyed it, did well with it. And so started exploring that, I think in 2012 pretty heavily. And then I started university in 2014. But that was a big move for me. It's moving out of the house, kind of figuring out all of that. I actually moved in with my cousin and we lived together for like a year until he got married and kicked me out. But that was probably the first, okay, there's something here I've got to pursue. And I don't really know all the ins and outs of how it's going to play out, but let's just jump in and see. And that was university for me, was that first, okay, let's step out and get scared and lean into the fear a little bit.
Yeah, and eat ramen noodles for a year and all that. Yeah,
exactly.
So where'd you go to school? What'd you take?
I went to school in Fredericton, which is where I'm living here now. I took mechanical engineering. Kind of on the recommendation of my cousin. Like I said, none of my family had gone to university. And so I was like, what do I do? And so I was kind of leafing through the different options and stuff and kind of fell into that because I enjoy making stuff, as you can tell by my wood turning background and building the lathe and everything. And it was going to be challenging. So I just jumped in with that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So at this point, was web development, SEO, was that on your radar at all at this point, when you're in school?
It wasn't at all. As we get to it, basically it was last year after our kid was born that this started, and we can dive into that too if you want right now, or we can kind of.
Let's dive. No.
Yeah. So
it seems like you've been doing this forever. You've been doing it for a year and a half.
Yeah.
That's impressive. So
I think, through university, I worked in mechanical design. I think the first summer I started at that job, enjoyed it. But after we got married and after our first kid, it was like, man, this is awful. I get up, I go to work, and I see our son for 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day, maybe, right? Because I'm going to work before he gets up and I'm coming to work or coming back home. Spend an hour with him or so while Alyssa's making supper, and then he's to bed soon after. And so I was like, man, there's got to be something. And I'd met a lot of entrepreneurial type people through university. Our university here is very focused on entrepreneurship. I'd taken a few of the courses, but never really dove into a specific program around that. But I'd met some really cool people. And a few of them were making money online with drop shipping and stuff. And so after Everett was born, I was like, I really got to look into this, even as a side hustle or something. Because, Mr. Side Hustle here. That's why it was funny that you'd ask, because side hustles were a big thing. There's actually another side hustle that I had, which we might touch on later. But
okay, remember that, because we'll circle back to. I want to know what that is. But
yeah. So after Everett was born, I was like, there's got to be something I can do to at least supplement the income, so I can work a few less hours at the job I'm currently doing. And so I looked really heavily into drop shipping and realized pretty quick this was not for me. I think why?
Yeah.
I just felt like I'd be cramming consumerism down people's throats, because you gotta run ads for. I mean, Wish is the classic example of drop shipping, right? You see ads for all these little trinkets, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just like I didn't think I could find fulfillment in that, and there was no interaction with my end customers really, and forming relationships. Which, as I looked at some different options, it was like that's what I really like. It's what I'd liked at jobs I'd had before, was the personal interaction with people.
Yeah. So the SEO thing, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so it kind of led from there. I started seeing ads for different courses and stuff. Everybody starts targeting me by, the research that I was doing, and came across this really powerful program, and jumped in. I mean, my first sale was convincing Alyssa to take the money we'd saved for a bathroom and putting it into this pretty extensive course in, website building, SEO, all of that sort of stuff. And then, the rest is history from there. But
yeah, well, except for the bathroom, right? Because I presume it's not done.
We did get it's mostly done now.
That's impressive. Good.
I was so busy with Blue Crocus last year that we ended up getting someone in to do the first start of it, like doing the shower and tiling and everything, and then I've been pecking away at it. It's mostly done now.
Right on. Good stuff. So that you took probably a pretty extensive course, I would think, to get into what you're doing now, web development. I mean, that's not something you just learn in a 2-day course. So
no,
were you taking the course? Sorry, were you taking the course while you're working at your other job?
Yes, yeah. So I was doing it in the evenings and mornings, basically, using it the rest of the time that I had at home, basically, while the family was sleeping, to get that started, so I could start, making it happen.
Yeah. Well, how long did that course take? Like, that's got to be a few months, I would think.
I mean, I think there's still some parts that I haven't gone through, but yeah. But I think it took me about a month to get through it, because I was devoting probably 5-6 hours a day to it. I was like, I got to make this work, because I saw a vision too of this might even replace my income down the road.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
man. So when did Blue Crocus, like, when was that idea born? Like, not the name, like that's a cool name, but like, was it while you're taking the course where the gears started turning for you, where you're like, what, I might start my own thing here?
Yeah, I think it happened, as I was looking, it was like this, I think this course is the avenue to get where I need to go.
Yeah.
But I think I bought the course August 1st. So that's the date that I kind of put in. It's like August 1st, 2019 is when this whole ball started rolling.
Totally.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you're kind of like me, and I think this is probably like most people. Like, when we start our own, businesses, we usually have something to fall back on, right? So you still had your day job.
Yep.
So when you started Blue Crocus Solutions and things started growing, they start slow at first, but then it's like a snowball, right?
Yeah.
It gets faster and faster. Were you getting to the breaking point of your, like, I'm going to need to pick one or the other, like, or get rid of the day job? Like, how did that come about? Because I know for me, when I started my striping business, it was like the first year it was fine, but you get busier and busier and you're working more and more. And for me, it was like, man, I got to pick one or the other. And it was actually my wife who pushed me into it. She's like, yeah, you need to go for the thing you actually want to do.
Right. The thing that's consuming your mind. It's kind of a funny story. So the place that I was working, as I got into this course and interacted with the group of people in it, I started, like, mindset is probably the biggest thing that has shifted for me after becoming a business owner and turning it from more than just a hobby into, like, okay, this has to pay the bills. And so I started reading the 4-Hour Workweek, and in there he talks about, if you want to do something, you just got to go for it, right? If you want to ask for that raise. So I did that. I went to my boss in the mechanical design job, and I was like, look, we were, I would say, decent friends. I said, I've always had the the understanding that if I'm going to look for a job elsewhere, I'll come see you first and we'll see if we can figure something out.
Yeah.
And I said, this is really what I need to be making. I need to be making X number of dollars a year to support, the family that we're starting to, to keep the ball rolling and everything. And, if that doesn't work, I may have to look for work elsewhere, because it was just something that was on my mind. Right. And, at the end of the week, he calls me into his office to kind of wrap up the discussion. We talked a couple of times through the week, and he was like, "Tomorrow's your last day." Man. And I was like, "Man, right?" Like that was a gut punch. And I had to drive home, like the 20-minute drive home, and I just walked in and I broke down. I was like, I just lost my job. Like I had to tell Alyssa, right?
Of course, yeah. And by this point, did you have the baby? Your little baby?
So Everett was born in June. I started in August. Started Blue Crocus in August, and this was like August 23rd. So it was not long, right?
Man. So your initial reaction wasn't, "This is an immediate blessing. Like this is great. Now I can do my own thing." You were right freaked out.
It was a mixed bag, to be honest.
Yeah.
There was a bit of panic. Like I even said, "Look, is there any way we can like extend this out a little bit so I can find another job?" And then in the back of my mind, I was like, "Don't fight for this too hard," because I wasn't sure how long I would really want to stay at the company anyway. Like I think it probably would have been a 2-year run regardless. So I was like, "Man, like this, just makes it really cut and dry." But then I had to like, kind of deal with all of that on the drive home. So looking back, I think it was the best thing that happened last year, aside from Everett being born, because it put a lot of things into perspective. It helped me to see, you just got to go for the things that you want to go for. Jobs are not necessarily secure. Career choices aren't necessarily secure, especially for, I think, someone of my personality. And, Blue Crocus might not be secure, but I also know that I'm just going to hit whatever is in front of me with, 100% effort. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what matters.
Yeah. Oh, I get that. Yeah. There's no way you're going to be happy the day you get fired. I mean,
no, it was crazy. And I think, as the provider, so my wife, has always, her career dream has always been to be a mother. And so that is how we're working it. So I provide for the family and she provides for us. It's a beautiful symbiosis. Man.
So you got thrust into Blue Crocus full time, almost not by choice. Like you were probably guiding it that way, but it got accelerated.
Yeah. And so a couple days later, when the dust had settled, I was like, "Man, like I could really crush this." And so we talked, and I was like, "All right, Alyssa, give me a month to really hit this hard," because at that point I didn't have any income from Blue Crocus.
Well, yeah, of course.
I think I had just registered the business like a few days before or something. Like it was still very young, and so that's what we did. I started putting some feelers out. But I just hit it really hard, started building some stuff up, canvassing the city, talking to local business owners, and got a couple local clients, which I realize now I probably undercharged quite a bit, but it got my feet under me. It gave me some confidence in that what I was doing actually worked. And then by, I think, the end of September, we had made the call. It's like, I think we need a little bit of income in here to get this fledgling business off the ground here. And the savings were dwindling. I was having the time of my life. Like I'd never wanted to go to work that much. Like I woke up, eat breakfast, and then I just like lock myself in the office and crush it out. And I just had a ball. And I was like, this is the amount of effort I put in is directly related to what comes out. And I love this because you can't phone it in anymore. Right. Like not that I was, it's just, there's no coasting or your bank account's going to show it.
Exactly. I think that's what drives people, right? Is the idea that like when you're an employee, you don't have to give 100% to get 100% of your wage. But when you run the show, everything that you put in is directly commensurate with what you get out of it. So no, I totally get that. So as you've seen it growing through the year, and I mean, it's growing more and more. I mean, we all follow you online. We know how big it's getting. Like you're everywhere now. How is fear? I want to ask you about fear because you interviewed Ken Walls a couple weeks ago on the podcast, which was amazing.
He's such a good guest. That was really fun.
Oh man, Ken Walls. And I know we were talking after, and you said the biggest thing that you got from that was about fear and how that leads to procrastination. So I think a lot of small business owners, like I know I was, and probably you are too, are really sometimes hampered by fear, especially when the business is young and you're not making a lot of money. So what did you do to mitigate that? Did you just like double down on your efforts and grind out as much as you can, or did you have like somebody to talk to and help you through it? How did that work?
I definitely had a lot of people I could reach out to and chat about the fears, and a lot of people, that had reached success in kind of the avenue that I was taking. And so I could kind of look at them. It's like, well, if they can do it, what's stopping me from doing it?
Yeah.
I'm also an action taker, and I've learned like imperfect action beats perfect inaction every time. So I can do that up to a point, but then there are some days where it's just like they're getting less and less now. And this is why I was talking about it with Ken and kind of asked it from me, not just for the listeners, was, how do you deal with procrastination? Because I've been a massive procrastinator all through university, all through life even before that. It's a little bit different when you're doing a hands-on job because you just get out there and do it. But when you're doing stuff that's like sitting down in front of a computer, you can get distracted by any which way. There's so many rabbit holes to go down. And some days I would just find myself at the end of the day, it's like I didn't get anything done. And it was usually because there was a project that I didn't necessarily know the end solution before I got started. And as Ken kind of broke it down, there was a fear that I wouldn't be able to find the end solution. And so I would just freeze. Or I'd been working so hard and grinding so hard that maybe I just burnt out. And so there was nothing left in the tank. Maybe I was exhausted that day. But him breaking it down into fear, it's like, yeah, fear is huge. And I have fear. Like no matter how put together I appear on camera or on a podcast or whatever, it's like, if someone tells you that they don't have fear, then they're either really special and a little bit crazy and out of touch with reality, or they're just not telling you the truth. Because I think every person that I've talked to that's in a place way further than where I want to go, they deal with fear every day. Mm-hmm. And it's just how for me, it's turning into, let's take some action on things that I can do, get some momentum, and then push through that.
Well said. Yeah.
Fear is ever present with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's got to be for most people, especially as a business owner. Yeah, that's emotional highs, lows. Where the business goes, you go with it. So if you have a down week in the business or a down month, you're going to go with it mentally. Yeah, it's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's two things I really want to focus in on with you because, like, I've known you pretty well since the beginning of Blue Crocus. I follow everything you do, and your online presence is growing and growing. And you've managed to figure out something that I have not. Mm-hmm. Which is like the consistency of your brand and your messaging. Like we can count on a Louis Vandervalk post every day on Facebook, at least one, probably more. Yep. And I know for me, that's not an easy thing to do. But one thing that I noticed that guides so much of what you do is all about, like saying generosity is almost too simple of a way to put it, but you're very focused on giving value to people first. So I know in other podcasts you've talked about one of your favorite books, which is The Go-Giver. Mm-hmm. So people may have heard you talk about it before, but for those who haven't, like what is so special about that book? Like what is the book about, and how has that guided you in Blue Crocus? Because I'm pretty sure, if I know correctly, a lot of what you read in that book is what guides you in what you're doing today.
Yeah. So let's go back to, I guess, Louis of 2019, starting the business and getting rolling. I, from some of my mentors, is like jump into groups and interact, because there's gold mines in the groups of people that, probably need some help. Right. And so I jumped in and I was like, guys, look, I'm new here. Like, give me your money. And that's basically how all my posts were. And I actually ended up getting blocked from a few groups because of that. And to me, I was like, man, what did I do wrong, right? Because I just jumped on the scene and kind of really just jumped in with no holds barred, because that's what I do. And then I try and figure out what I did wrong after. But what I realized is, now looking at it, I see those people jump into the groups, and it's like, man, here's another marketer. And that's what everybody was thinking when I jumped into the groups. And so I kind of stepped back and kind of stopped, because obviously it wasn't working, and I felt like I didn't want to be blocked from any more groups. And and so through the process of being coached and mentored, I was told to read The Go-Giver, or suggested to read The Go-Giver by one of my mentors. And for anyone who hasn't read it, it's an incredible book. It's by Bob Berg, and it's really short. I think on Audible it's like 4 hours or something, so it's very bite-sized. But basically, it walks through a guy who is desperate to reach his goal at the end of a month, and he meets. I won't ruin the plot line, but he meets with this guy who basically just avoids his questions about what he should be doing to reach his quotas, and instead leads him on this journey of people that he's met, people that are living out the principles. And I forget the list of principles. I think there's 4 or 5 principles throughout the book, and each chapter is kind of focused on one of those. But the main takeaway from the book, and the overarching principle, is give way more value than you want in return, and in return that momentum will build, and then people will want to give back to you. And basically he met a few people through the book who had just grown these massive companies and were extremely successful, but only did that because they were giving back to a higher, that they were shooting for a higher goal, shooting to make people's lives better, and weren't even focused on the money.
Yeah, that's hard to do because, like, especially when you have a business, like you want to succeed, especially if you have kids like you do and I do. Like, you want to make momentum for yourself, but what you're saying is in that book, it's basically view it the other way. Like, don't focus on what you need to do for yourself, but focus on what you can give other people, right?
Yeah. Like, how can you give them the absolute best experience? How can you help someone along the way? I mean, you're a great example of this. The only reason that we're chatting today is because we had connected and we spent an hour or something going through your website. Not to toot my horn, but that's how we met and how you got to know who I was.
Well, yeah, and then I mean, I just posted it on my social, I think yesterday, but yeah, a couple weeks ago, you sent me a DM and you're like, hey, your website, your SSL is down on your website, and like, man, that's not stuff I'm paying attention to, but that could be a huge deal, especially depending on your website. I still don't really know what SSL is, but I know it's important, and you told me, like, get your SSL fixed.
Yeah. And so looking back, and I started to realize after reading the book, it's like, man, all the connections that I've made that turned into something of value for me was where I went out and I gave value, not expecting value in return. Mm-hmm. And it's a weird paradox because it's like, oh, I'm going to go out and give to a bunch of people and then wait for the money to roll in. That if you're doing it from that perspective, then I don't think it'll work, because I genuinely want to give help to as many people as possible, because I look at the help that I've gotten to go from where I really didn't know a thing about what I'm doing to now where I'm making money at it, right? And I've had so many people that I could call up and ask questions, so many people that I could shoot a message and they'd drop what they're doing, hop on a Zoom call with me. And I just started to realize that if I'm not doing that for people in the industry, in all of life, really, then how can I ever expect to get value back? Because at the end of the day, I want more than money in return. I want friendships, and I want people who would be in my corner if something went downhill for our family. And the only way that that's going to happen is by building relationships, real solid relationships that are based not on what I can get in return, but how I can help those people in their hour of need. Yeah,
well said. I noticed something. I want to keep going because we're going to run out of time here. You and I could talk all day. And I want to talk about one other important thing too. But I noticed this a few weeks ago with one of your posts online. I don't remember exactly what it was about, but it was offering like a free trial of Blue Crocus's services. Like, are you looking for more leads? Something to that effect. And there was somebody on your post that basically accused you of doing like shady stuff, like why would you need to give stuff away for free if you're a legitimate business?
Yeah.
Right, is essentially the cause. So I remember reading that, and it was incredible to see the amount of people that took the time on your post to not just like say, hey buddy, you're wrong, but people went to great lengths to explain what you're doing, what Blue Crocus is about. I thought that was really cool, because you've built this following of people that understand your values and understand that you are a value first person. And then the thing that really blew me away, I think you said in that post, this guy who was, like I said, was basically accusing you of shady stuff. You hopped on a Zoom call with him?
Yeah. I was gonna say that's really what I want to draw out here is he was genuinely concerned. So basically, I posted saying, who wants a free trial of a review generating software that we can help you get more reviews. It doesn't generate reviews. It basically helps you automate reaching out to people, and asking for reviews after you do a job, because following up, sometimes we forget to reach out to people, right?
Yeah.
So I was pitching that as, hey, I want to try this new system that we have on someone other than ourselves, and eventually we're going to offer it as a paid service. So who wants to jump in? Well, Adam Wellman was basically he had seen my post pop up of me giving away stuff all the time, and he was genuinely concerned that I was just trying to scam people in the business.
Yeah.
And he made that very clear.
He made that very clear. Yes, he did publicly.
Yeah, he did make that very clear, and it was incredible to watch everybody rally. And honestly, it made me feel really good and made me realize that we got to keep going in the direction that we're going, because I think we're headed down a good path. But I did reach out to him. I said, Adam, I had a couple people reach out to me as well, who knew Adam, and say, this guy's he's a great guy. I don't know what happened. And so I reached out to him and said, look, I'd love to hop on and clear some of this up, because either you've had a bad experience. So we hopped on and we chatted for an hour. Awesome guy, and we may be able to help each other. Me kind of pointing stuff to what he's doing, and him helping me out. So I think at the end of the day, I love that story, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it's probably in the last half a year, it's one of my favorite moments of Blue Crocus, was to see everybody come out of the woodwork, and then also for me to be at a place where I could react in a way that wasn't just reactionary. Because I know a year ago, I would have just blocked him or deleted his comment.
That's what most people would do.
Yeah.
I remember when I read the comment, I was upset, because I know what you're about, but my first reaction, if that happened to me, would not be to hop on a Zoom call with the guy. It would be to hit the delete or the block button. Yeah, and just be like, what are you doing? So I can't believe you hopped on a call with him, and obviously it was a good call. Yeah, you guys talked it out. But I wanted to bring that up, because I just think that speaks volume to not just you, but what other business owners can do. You're going to get negative reactions as a business owner, justified or not, and how you deal with them is everything. So take your worst enemy right now and go hop on a Zoom call with him. It worked for you, so.
Yeah. I mean, I think you got to take it case by case, because some people are just out to ruin you. But I'd never interacted with him, and so this is where I wanted to give him a chance, I guess. And I think it turned out the best possible way it could have.
Right on. Good. Okay, so the other thing I really wanted to ask you about is something that I struggled with this year as my company's grown, and I think a ton of business owners struggle with, is employees.
Yeah.
In fact, one of your podcast guests was Mike Wingard. And part of the reason you brought him on, I think, was because I was whining and complaining about employees. So you yanked Mike on. But here you are, in 2020, you've brought somebody onto the team very recently. So just, in a couple minutes, how did that come about? How did you get to know Ryan, and what made you bring him into the fold?
So Ryan and I met in university, actually. He was I started a little bit more as a mature student, because I had kind of taken the time to figure out what I was doing. We're only a few months different in age, actually. So I met him as he was just graduating. And I think we were in the same club or something, and he and I were in on one of the same events or something. I don't remember exactly, but we connected on Facebook, and so he'd been following what I was doing with Blue Crocus. And one day I was like, man, I'm going to need some employees sometime. So how do I go about this? Because it was something I'm struggling with, and still, it's a challenging thing to bring people on that are going to do well by the company and have the same kind of vision that you do, right?
Mm.
So I posted and said, where do people find employees? And I got a bunch of reactions and instructions and all of that. But Ryan reached out to me by message and was like, dude, I've been following what you're doing. I'd love to know more. And so we went out for lunch, and I think that was in July or something. And so he's been, getting up to speed here. And and learning everything that there is to know about what we're doing. And he's coming on, he's still a part-time role, but coming on more full-time as every day goes by, and coming up to speed. So I mean, I don't know if there's a magic formula on how to repeat Orion for other people out there, but I mean, it kind of goes back to the posting, I guess, because he knew enough about what I was doing to reach out and say, hey, I want to, learn more and maybe be a part of this.
No doubt. I mean, that's it, right? You like regular posting consistency, building an image and a brand. Yeah, people are drawn to that. Like not just customers, but obviously potential employees too. So yeah, a potential employee could be following you right now on your social.
I think that's big, and I think I've heard other people say it. I forget who said it, but basically the way that you present yourself, like I'm pretty myself when I'm on camera. Like I've gotten to the point where I'm fairly comfortable. I'll be honest, the first few lives, it was like sweating, and every podcast I'd be like really nervous. And sometimes, I mean, I was a little bit nervous before this one because I'd never been on this end of the camera and the microphone. But
to be fair, I told you I was going to grill you too. So
yeah, it's true. Yeah. But just showing who you are and the values that you have, you're going to attract the type of people that are going to want to come on your mission. I think it might have been Brian Hess actually that said that was, you're going to attract the type of people that have similar values, and you're going to repel the type of people that you don't really want, snagging you up or holding you back on the vision and journey that you're going on.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, I mean, everything you're doing is so cool to watch, especially the podcast. I mean, it started out obviously pretty small, but now, like you just mentioned, Brian Hess was on your podcast, which is super cool. You've had other big guys too, Mike Wingard, Judd Burden, Ken Walls, like I mentioned, that was amazing.
That guy hangs out with Grant Cardone, so I feel like I'm one person removed from getting Grant on the show here.
I mean, he'll be on in the next 10 episodes. It's going to happen. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
you'll get him on. Yeah. So what does the next little bit look like for Blue Crocus here? Like what do you got planned in the next year, 2 years? Where do you want to go? And if you have any great sneak peeks for what your plans are, now would be a good time to tell the world, like what's
the world.
Yeah, what's the Blue Crocus plan here coming up?
So our end goal is by 2028, we'd like to give away $1 million to charity. So that's kind of,
say that again, by 2028.
We want to give away $1 million to charity.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. I don't know how we're going to do it, but that's the overarching, like that's a goal, an unachievable from where we stand right now, goal that we've set that kind of drives everything that we're doing now, because we've got to obviously build a business that can sustain that. The short-term goal, I would say the next year, is to continue to spread, the knowledge of what we're doing, the exposure, and help as many people as we can. I think right now, our push for like the winter season would be to, teach people how important it is to be positioned online, and then be there to offer help or point them to someone who can offer help for their specific needs. And then, we'll see where next year goes. But I mean, it's more outreach, more helping people ultimately.
Yeah, man, that's fantastic. When I said that's crazy, I don't mean you're crazy. I mean, that's a crazy good thing. Like $1 million by 2028. I believe in you, man.
I feel crazy to me too, but we're going to get it somehow.
Oh, I think you're going to do it. Yeah. Right on. I'll tell you what, why don't you, you always end your podcast with like asking people to leave like a tip or that's how I want to end this. Like you're an SEO guy and a web development guy. So many business owners have a website but don't really have a purpose behind it. Can you give us your greatest small business website or search engine tip that people can put into practice right now? And I'm mostly asking for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think you've checked off what I'll start, I guess, before focusing on where you are, is if you don't have a Google business listing, get one. Get that set up as soon as possible. They're free. They're free to set up. If you want to optimize it and crush things out further, we can certainly have a chat. But I'm happy to talk to anyone who's having trouble setting them up as well. Get one of those. Get a Facebook page for your business, and not a personal profile page, but like a business page that you can run ads from and stuff. Get that set up and start posting regular content about what you do, and educate people on, if it's paving, for example, things that they can do in their driveway, things that they can do on their parking lot and when they should call in the experts. Those are both free options. And then if if you're at a level where you need a website, I think it's a great place to drive people. You can drive them from Google Ads, but also just, from your Facebook page or whatever. And it gives you a place to showcase what you do. And for free tips on your website, mention what you do and where you do it. Because basically Google has to figure out of the millions of websites out there, just because you set up your website in your hometown doesn't mean that Google's going to automatically match you up with someone searching.
Yeah.
It needs to know what you do and where you do it so that it can match your website up with someone who's looking in the location for your service.
That's
so don't be afraid to have location keywords and lay out in great detail what it is that you do.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's something I learned from you quite a while ago too, and actually I have to improve it anyways. So I'm glad you brought that tip up because now that reminded me to do it.
There you go.
If somebody's listening right now and hears that, and like start a My Business listing, start a Facebook page, and they're freaking out because they don't know anything about that, how do people get in touch with you? Because I know you're gonna help some people out. Do you have like some references or how do people contact you for more info on that? Get some help on it.
I mean, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can message me directly. Always happy to help out there. And I mean, everything comes into me, so it's all messaging me directly. You can find our website, bluecrocus.ca, and send a message through there. My phone number's on there as well as my email. So just get in touch with me somehow, and I'll hop on a phone call with you or a Zoom call and help you to get that set up if you're running into issues.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome. Anything else we missed before we wrap up? Anything you want to say?
This has been really fun, Cam. I appreciate you reaching out. I appreciate you kind of running through. As we were leading up to this, I was like, man, what is my story? I gotta remember what my story is because we don't talk about it every day, right? So it was kind of neat to reminisce and look back at the journey of where, taking action and just diving in without necessarily sorting out all the things that need to be sorted out and where that took us.
Very cool. Well, thanks. Yeah, we really appreciate it. And I know I'm looking forward to seeing where you're going next. I know everyone else is too. I think big things are happening for Blue Crocus. So thanks so much for sharing your story with everybody.
I appreciate it, Cam. And yeah, everybody go follow what Cam's doing too. He has some cool stuff going on Instagram all the time and Facebook. You're super active in the groups and always offering value there. So, I mean, you're preaching exactly what we just talked about.
I try. All right. Thanks so much, Lewis. Appreciate it.
Good stuff. All right, guys. Talk to you later.